The Rosewood Foundation Gala was the social event of the season. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting golden light over the crowd of New York's elite. Women in designer gowns and men in $1,000 tuxedos mingled, their laughter as practiced as their smiles. In the center of it all stood Roman Lacroix, nursing a glass of scotch and checking his watch for the third time in 15 minutes. At 29, he was the youngest billionaire in the room, his tech company revolutionizing how people connected online. With dark hair that always seemed perfectly styled and eyes the color of the Atlantic, he was used to being the center of attention. "Roman, darling," purred Allegra Saint, sliding her arm through his. Her red dress clung to her model-thin frame, diamonds glittering at her throat. "You promised to introduce me to Senator Williams tonight." Roman nodded, not really listening. Allegra was the perfect accessory. Beautiful, connected, and as ambitious as he was, their engagement was more of a business arrangement than a love match, but that suited him fine. Love was for people who hadn't learned life's hardest lessons yet. "I need some air," he said, pulling away from her grasp. Allegra's smile tightened. "Don't be long. The photographer from Vanity Fair wants our picture in 10 minutes. Roman made his way toward the back of the ballroom, where the catering staff bustled in and out through swinging doors. He needed a moment away from the constant performance of his life. That's when he heard it. A laugh, soft and genuine, like someone had just told the best joke in the world. It cut through the fake sounds of the gala like a ray of sunshine breaking through clouds. Roman turned to find its source. She stood near the dessert table, wearing a simple black wrap dress with a small smudge of flour on the cuff. Her curves were fuller than any woman's in the room, her skin a warm brown, and her hair fell in natural curls around her shoulders. She was speaking to an older woman in a chef's coat, completely unaware of him watching her. "Miss Patterson, I swear these macarons are even better than the ones in Paris," she was saying, her voice warm like honey. "Your bakery is going to be famous after tonight." The older woman beamed. "Only because of you, Nia. Now help me arrange these truffles before the guests descend like locusts." Roman found himself walking toward them before he even realized what he was doing. "Excuse me," he said. Both women looked up, but it was the younger one, Nia, whose eyes captured him. They were deep brown with flecks of gold, and they widened slightly when she saw him standing there. "May I try one?" Roman asked, gesturing to the pastries. The older woman immediately perked up. "Mr. Lacroix, of course, please have anything you'd like. I'm Elaine Patterson of Sweet Dreams Bakery." But Roman wasn't looking at her. His eyes remained fixed on Nia, who was studying him with an expression that wasn't the usual fawning admiration he received. "The lemon ones are the best," Nia said simply, pushing a small plate toward him. He took one and bit into it. "Incredible," he said, and meant it. "Did you make these?" "My godmother did," Nia said, nodding toward Elaine. "I just help out." "Nia is being modest," Elaine cut in. "She's the real talent. Those chocolate truffles are her creation." Roman reached for one. "Then I have to try these too." "I'm not on the menu, Mr. Lacroix," Nia said dryly when she caught him staring at her, rather than the truffle. Instead of being offended, Roman laughed. A real laugh, something that surprised even him. "I don't believe I caught your full name." "Nia Holloway," she answered, a hint of wariness in her voice. "And I know who you are. Your face is on the cover of Business Week this month." "Roman!" Allegra's voice cut through their conversation like a knife. "The photographer is waiting." Roman turned to see Allegra approaching, her smile fixed but her eyes cold as she assessed Nia. "I'll be right there," he said, then turned back to Nia. "It was nice meeting you, Miss Holloway. I hope to see you again." Nia just raised an eyebrow. "Enjoy the gala, Mr. Lacroix. Your fiancé is waiting." As Roman walked away with Allegra clinging to his arm, he couldn't help glancing back. Nia had already returned to work, arranging pastries with careful hands, completely unbothered by their interaction. For the first time in years, someone had looked at him and seen just a man, not a bank account, not a stepping stone, not a prize to be won. "Who was that?" Allegra asked, her voice tight. "Just the baker," Roman replied, but even as he said it, he knew there was nothing just about Nia Holloway. The rest of the gala passed in a blur of handshakes and fake smiles. Roman posed for photos with Allegra, discussed business opportunities with investors, and made all the right comments to all the right people. But his mind kept drifting back to the woman in the simple black dress with flower on her cuff. Later that night, as his driver took him home to his penthouse, Roman stared out at the city lights. He had everything money could buy: a successful company, a beautiful fiancée, respect and power. So why did he feel so empty? His phone buzzed with a text from Allegra. "You were distracted tonight. Remember, we have the charity luncheon tomorrow. Wear the blue tie, it photographs better." Roman didn't respond. Instead, he pulled out the business card Elaine Patterson had pressed into his hand. "Sweet Dreams Bakery." He ran his thumb over the embossed lettering, remembering Nia's laugh. For the first time in a long time, Roman felt something stir inside him. Curiosity, interest, maybe even hope. In her small apartment in Brooklyn, Nia kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto her worn couch. Her younger sister, Tasha, looked up from her textbooks. "How was the fancy party?" Tasha asked. "Same as they always are," Nia sighed. "Rich people pretending to care about charity while showing off their money. Did you bring me any leftovers?" Nia smiled and pulled out a small box of pastries from her bag. "Would I forget my favorite sister?" "I'm your only sister," Tasha laughed, grabbing a macaron. Nia's phone rang and her smile faded when she saw the caller ID, Ridgewood Recovery Center. "Mom?" she answered, tension creeping into her voice. "Nia, baby," her mother's voice was slurred. "I need to come home. This place isn't helping me." Nia closed her eyes, her heart sinking. "Mom, we talked about this. You need to complete the program this time." "I can't, baby. I just can't." The call ended with Nia promising to visit tomorrow, knowing that her mother probably wouldn't remember the conversation by morning. She set her phone down and noticed Tasha watching her with worried eyes. "Is she checking out again?" Tasha asked quietly. "Not if I can help it," Nia said firmly. "Don't worry about it. You just focus on your scholarship applications." Nia went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. Her godmother had been so excited about catering the gala, talking about all the connections they might make. But Nia knew better than to get her hopes up. Dreams were luxury items, and she'd learned long ago that survival came first. She thought briefly of Roman Lacroix with his ocean blue eyes and perfect smile. Men like him lived in a different world, one where problems could be solved with a checkbook and a phone call. "Get it together, Nia," she told her reflection. "Tomorrow's another day, another 3 jobs and reality waiting." Still, as she climbed into bed that night, the memory of Roman's genuine laugh lingered in her mind. For just a moment, he'd seemed like a real person instead of a walking headline. But fairy tales weren't for girls like her. And princes, especially billionaire tech princes with supermodel fiancés, definitely didn't end up with the help. Tomorrow, life would go back to normal, and that was exactly how it should be. The morning after the gala, Nia arrived at Sweet Dreams Bakery at 5 a.m., her eyes still heavy with sleep. Her godmother, Elaine, was already there, humming as she mixed dough. "There she is, my star," Elaine exclaimed. "Do you know we've already gotten 3 calls this morning about catering? That gala was the best advertising we could have asked for." Nia smiled tiredly. "That's great, Miss Patterson." She tied on her apron and washed her hands. "I'm going to start on the morning pastries." "Oh, before I forget," Elaine said, reaching into her pocket, "someone left this for you last night." She handed Nia a business card. One side had the Lacroix Tech logo, and on the back, handwritten in blue ink, "The lemon ones were indeed the best. Call me, Roman." Nia stared at the card, then shook her head and tucked it into her apron pocket. "Rich men and their games," she muttered. "He seemed interested in you," Elaine said with a knowing smile. "He's engaged to Allegra Saint," Nia reminded her. "You know, the woman whose face is plastered on billboards all over the city. Besides, men like that don't date women like me. They just sample." Elaine raised an eyebrow but said nothing more as they worked side by side, filling the bakery with heavenly smells. By 7 a.m., the first customers were lining up outside. At precisely 9:15 a.m., the bell above the door chimed. Nia looked up from the register and froze. Roman Lacroix stood there in a casual blue button-down shirt and jeans, a far cry from his tuxedo the night before, but still probably more expensive than her entire wardrobe. He seemed almost out of place in the small, cozy bakery. "Good morning," he said, approaching the counter with a smile that made Nia's stomach do an annoying little flip. "Mr. Lacroix," she greeted him professionally. "What can I get for you today?" "More of those lemon pastries," he said, "and maybe a few minutes of your time." Nia raised an eyebrow. "The pastries I can do. My time is already spoken for. I'm working." "Roman!" Elaine emerged from the kitchen, wiping flour from her hands. "What a lovely surprise. Nia, why don't you take your break now? I can handle the register." Before Nia could protest, Elaine had shooed her out from behind the counter. Roman looked entirely too pleased with himself. "Just 15 minutes, he said. "There's a coffee shop next door." Reluctantly, Nia untied her apron. Fine, 15 minutes. At the coffee shop, Roman insisted on buying her a drink, despite her protests. They sat at a small table by the window. So, Nia said, cradling her cup, what does a billionaire want with a baker's assistant? To get to know her, Roman replied simply. You're different, Nia laughed. Different from the women you usually date, you mean? Like your fiancé? A shadow crossed Roman's face. Allegra and I have an arrangement. It's complicated. It always is, Nia said dryly. Look, Mr. Lacroix. Roman, please. Roman, she corrected herself. I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested. I have 2 more jobs after this one, a sister to take care of and a mother in rehab. I don't have time for complicated. Something in Roman's expression changed. For a moment, the polished billionaire facade cracked, and Nia glimpsed something real underneath. Loneliness, perhaps. What if I just want to be friends? He asked. Friends, Nia repeated skeptically. You and me. Is that so hard to believe? Yes, she said bluntly. Men like you don't become friends with women like me without wanting something. Roman leaned forward. What if what I want is just to talk to someone who doesn't see dollar signs when they look at me? Someone who laughs like they mean it. Nia studied him, trying to find the angle, the hidden agenda, but all she saw was sincerity in those ocean blue eyes. Fine, she said finally. Friends. But if you try anything else, I'll pour hot coffee in your lap, and these pants look expensive. Roman grinned, and Nia couldn't help but smile back. Over the next 2 weeks, Roman became a regular at Sweet Dreams Bakery. He'd arrive at different times, sometimes catching Nia, sometimes missing her. When he did find her there, they'd talk during her breaks. About books, movies, their childhoods, the sanitized versions, their dreams, his accomplished, hers still secret. Nia learned that despite his wealth, Roman had grown up with an emotionally distant father who measured love in achievements. His mother had left when he was 10, unable to stand the cold marriage any longer. My father built his company by destroying others, Roman confided one day. He taught me that business was war and emotions were weakness. When I started Laquatech, I swore I'd do things differently. And have you? Nia asked. Roman hesitated. Not always. It's hard to unlearn the lessons of childhood. Nia understood that better than most. She told him about raising Tasha, while their mother cycled in and out of rehab, about the neighborhood that had raised them both when their mom couldn't. My sister is the smart one, Nia said proudly. She's applying for college scholarships. She's going to be the first in our family to get a degree. What Nia didn't tell Roman was how tight money was, how she worked 3 jobs to keep Tasha in her good school, how she visited her mother at Ridgewood Recovery Center every Sunday, only to leave with a heart heavy with disappointment when her mother begged for money, just until I get back on my feet. She didn't tell him about the nights she stayed up worrying about bills, or how the bakery was struggling, despite the boost from the Gala, or how her father had abandoned them when she was just 8 years old, leaving only a note and empty promises to return. Some stories weren't meant for friendships that existed in 15-minute coffee breaks. Meanwhile, Roman's life continued as usual, board meetings, charity events, public appearances with Allegra on his arm. But increasingly, he felt like he was playing a part, reading lines in someone else's script. You're distracted again, Allegra snapped one evening as they left a restaurant where they dined with potential investors. That's the 3rd time you've checked your watch. I'm sorry, Roman said automatically. I have a lot on my mind. Is it that bakery girl? Allegra asked, her voice sharp. Don't think I haven't noticed. My assistant saw you at that pathetic little shop in Brooklyn. Roman's jaw tightened. Her name is Nia, and the bakery isn't pathetic. And yes, we're friends. Is that a problem? Friends, Allegra repeated with a cold laugh. Don't insult my intelligence, Roman. I've seen how men look at women they want. But remember, our agreement, our engagement is mutually beneficial. My family's connections, your technology, my brand, your money. Breaking it would be costly for both of us. Is that a threat? Allegra's perfect smile never wavered. Just a reminder of reality. Now let's not discuss this further. We have the charity auction tomorrow night and I expect you to be fully present. Back in his penthouse, Roman poured himself a drink and walked out onto the balcony. The city sprawled before him, millions of lights twinkling in the darkness. Somewhere out there in a small apartment in Brooklyn was Nia, probably helping Tasha with homework or preparing for her night shift at the diner where she waitressed. Roman pulled out his phone and texted her, "Friends check on friends, how was your day?" He was surprised when she responded almost immediately. "Long. Yours?" Exhausting. Being fake is harder than being real. There was a pause, then stop being fake. Roman smiled at the simplicity of her answer. If only it were that easy to walk away from the life he'd built, the expectations he'd created, the deals he'd made. His phone rang. His father. Roman hesitated before answering. "Roman," his father's cold voice came through. "I'm hearing rumors about you and some baker." Roman's grip tightened on the phone. "Hello to you too, Dad. Don't be smart with me. You have responsibilities, a position to maintain, and an engagement to honor." "I'm handling my responsibilities just fine," Roman said tersely. "The company is performing above projections." "This isn't just about the company. It's about the Lacroix name. Whatever game you're playing with this woman, end it. Now." The call ended, leaving Roman seething. At 29, he was still being controlled, still seeking approval from a man who had never shown him warmth. He texted Nia again. "What are you doing tomorrow night?" "Working at Mel's diner until 10. Why?" "I want to see you after your shift." There was a long pause before her response came. "This doesn't feel like friendship anymore, Roman." He typed back, "Maybe it's not. Is that so bad?" Another pause, longer this time. Finally, "Yes, it is." "For both of us. Good night, Roman." Roman stared at his phone, frustration and longing warring inside him. Nia was right. Whatever was growing between them had moved beyond friendship, but she was also right that it was complicated, dangerous even. For the first time in his life, Roman didn't know how to get what he wanted, because what he wanted wasn't for sale, couldn't be negotiated for, wouldn't be impressed by his wealth or status. What he wanted was Nia Holloway, a woman who saw through his facade and challenged him to be better than he was. The next evening, Roman sat beside Allegra at the charity auction, nodding and smiling on cue, making the expected bids on overpriced items. But his mind was in Brooklyn, at a small diner where Nia was serving coffee and dealing with difficult customers. "And now," the auctioneer announced, "our final item of the evening, a private dinner for two prepared by renowned chef Elaine Patterson of Sweet Dreams Bakery, the sensation of the Rosewood Gala." Roman sat up straighter as Elaine walked onto the stage, beaming in a chef's coat. The bidding started, and without hesitation, Roman raised his paddle. $10,000, he called out. Allegra's nails dug into his arm. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Supporting a friend," he replied calmly, not taking his eyes off the stage. The bidding continued, but Roman was relentless, finally winning with a bid of $50,000. The crowd applauded as he went to the stage to accept his certificate. "Thank you, Mr. Lacroix," Elaine said, a knowing twinkle in her eye. "Your generosity will help many children through this charity." "It's my pleasure," Roman said. "Though I have one request. I'd like Nia to assist with the dinner." Elaine smiled. "I think that can be arranged." When Roman returned to his table, Allegra was gone. His phone buzzed with a text from her. "We'll discuss this at home. Don't embarrass me further." Roman knew he should care more about Allegra's anger, about his father's disapproval, about the whispers that would surely follow. But all he could think about was seeing Nia again. At Mel's diner, Nia was just finishing her shift when her phone chimed with a text from Elaine. "You'll never believe what happened at the charity auction. Roman Lacroix bid $50,000 for our private dinner package, and he specifically requested you as part of the deal." Nia nearly dropped her phone. Emotions warred within her. Flattery, excitement, but mostly anger. Who did he think he was, buying her time like that? She was still fuming when she left the diner at 10:15 p.m., stepping out into the cool night air. And there he was, leaning against a sleek black car, waiting for her. "Before you say anything," Roman started, pushing away from the car. $50,000? Nia interrupted, her voice tight with anger. "How you paid $50,000 to force me to have dinner with you? That's not— I told you I wasn't for sale, Roman. I'm not some exotic experience you can buy." "Nia, please," Roman said, stepping closer. "The money was for charity, and yes, I wanted to see you, but I'm not a toy for you to play with when you're bored with your perfect life and perfect fiancé." Nia continued, hurt, making her voice shake. "Go home, Roman. Go back to your world. I don't belong there, and you don't belong in mine." She turned to walk away, but Roman caught her arm gently. "You're right," he said quietly. "I handled this all wrong. But Nia, when I'm with you, I feel like myself for the first time in years. Not Roman Lacroix, the CEO, not the son trying to please an impossible father, not the fiancé in a loveless engagement. Just me." Nia looked up at him, her resolve weakening at the vulnerability in his eyes. "I'm a mess, Roman," she admitted softly. My life is complicated in ways you can't even imagine. Then help me imagine it, he said. Let me in, Nia. For a moment they stood there on the sidewalk, the space between them charged with possibility. Then Nia's phone rang, Tasha's ringtone. Reality crashed back. Nia answered quickly, her face paling as she listened. I'll be right there, she said, ending the call. She looked at Roman, panic in her eyes. I have to go. My mother left rehab again. She's at our apartment and she's not alone. Let me drive you, Roman said immediately. Nia hesitated only a second before nodding. Okay. As they sped through the streets of Brooklyn, Nia stared out the window, her hands clenched in her lap. This wasn't how Roman was supposed to see her life, the messy, painful reality of addiction and struggle. But sometimes life didn't give you choices. Sometimes the fairy tale and the nightmare collided, and all you could do was hold on and hope you survived the impact. Roman's car pulled up outside Nia's apartment building in a neighborhood that was worlds away from his luxury penthouse. The streetlights cast shadows on cracked sidewalks, and music pounded from somewhere nearby. You can wait here, Nia said, her hand already on the door handle. This won't be pretty. I'm coming with you, Roman insisted, shutting off the engine. Nia wanted to argue but didn't have time. She hurried into the building with Roman following close behind. The scene inside her apartment made Nia's heart sink. Her mother, Diane, sat on the couch, her eyes unfocused, a half-empty bottle beside her. A man Nia didn't recognize was rummaging through their kitchen drawers. Tasha stood in the corner of the room, arms crossed protectively over her chest. Mum, Nia said firmly. What's going on? Diane looked up, her face brightening. Baby girl, there you are. This is Roy. He's an old friend. He's just looking for something to eat. We don't have anything worth stealing, Nia said loudly, addressing Roy. So you can leave now. Roy turned, eyeing Roman's expensive watch and suit. Well, looks like you've got resources after all. Roman stepped forward. I think it's time for you to go. And who are you? Roy sneered. Someone who's about to call the police, Roman replied calmly, pulling out his phone. Roy assessed the situation, then grabbed his jacket. Whatever, this place is a dump anyway. He shot Diane a disgusted look. You said your daughter had money. Don't come back, Nia warned as he pushed past them. Once he was gone, Nia locked the door and turned to her mother. You promised, Mum. 6 weeks in the program this time, no early checkouts. I couldn't stand it there another minute, Diane slurred. All those people telling me what to do, when to eat, when to sleep. Tasha stepped forward. You left without even telling us. I was scared when you just showed up with that man. Diane waved a dismissive hand. Roy's harmless, just down on his luck. Her gaze shifted to Roman, finally registering his presence. Who's this? You finally got yourself a rich boyfriend, Nia. This is Roman, a friend, Nia said tightly. Roman, this is my mother, Diane, and my sister, Tasha. Roman nodded politely, though the tension in the room was thick enough to cut. I need to get Mom to bed, Nia said, avoiding Roman's eyes. Tasha, could you make some coffee, please? As Nia helped her unsteady mother to the bedroom, she could hear Tasha talking to Roman in the kitchen. By the time she returned, they were sitting at the small kitchen table, 2 mugs of coffee between them. I was just telling Roman about my scholarship applications, Tasha said, a forced brightness in her voice. Nia gave her sister a grateful look for trying to salvage the awkward situation. Tasha's applying to Columbia, she said, sitting down. She's brilliant, straight A's even with everything. That's impressive, Roman said sincerely. Columbia's a great school. An uncomfortable silence fell. Finally, Nia spoke. You should go, Roman. Thank you for the ride, but we've got it from here. Are you sure? He asked, concern evident in his eyes. I could help. We don't need your help, Nia said, more sharply than she intended. This is our normal. We handle it. Roman looked like he wanted to say more, but thought better of it. He stood up. Call me if you need anything. Anything at all. After he left, Tasha gave Nia a curious look. He seems nice. Different than I expected a billionaire to be. He is nice, Nia admitted. But nice doesn't change reality. His world and ours don't mix, Tash. Maybe they could, Tasha suggested. He looked at you like you were something special. Nia shook her head. Let's get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. The next morning, Nia called in sick to the bakery for the first time ever. She needed to get her mother back to rehab and clean up the mess from the night before. To her surprise, Elaine showed up at her door an hour later. Miss Patterson, Nia said, embarrassed. I'm sorry about today. Don't apologize, Elaine said kindly. Roman called me. He said you might need some help. Nia's face flushed with a mixture of gratitude and humiliation. He had no right to. He cares about you, Elaine interrupted. And so do I. Now, where's Diane? Let's get her back where she needs to be. With Elaine's help, they managed to convince Diane to return to Ridgewood. Once she was settled, Elaine drove Nia back home. There's something I need to tell you, Elaine said as they sat in the car. Something I should have told you years ago. Nia looked at her godmother, puzzled by her serious tone. Your mother and I grew up together, Elaine began. We were like sisters. When she met your father, I was worried. He was charming but troubled. You knew my father? Nia asked, surprised. Her mother rarely spoke about him. Yes, James Holloway was a good man at heart, but he had demons. Elaine paused. But Nia, James wasn't your biological father. Nia felt like the air had been sucked from the car. What? Before your mother met James, she was involved with someone else, a wealthy man already married. When she got pregnant with you, he wanted nothing to do with it. James came along soon after and loved your mother enough to claim you as his own. Why are you telling me this now? Nia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Because I saw the way Roman looks at you, Elaine said, and I'm afraid history might repeat itself. Rich men can make promises they don't keep, Nia. I don't want you to get hurt like your mother did. Nia's head was spinning. Do you know who he was, my real father? Elaine hesitated. Your mother made me promise never to tell you, but with everything happening, maybe it's time you knew the truth. Before Elaine could say more, Nia's phone rang. It was the bakery's number. Nia, came the panicked voice of one of the other assistants. You need to come in. Health inspectors are here, and they're saying someone filed a complaint about food safety violations. What? That's ridiculous, Nia said. We have a perfect record. They're threatening to shut us down. Miss Patterson isn't answering her phone. She's with me, Nia said. We'll be right there. The revelation about her father would have to wait. Nia and Elaine rushed to the bakery to find two stern-faced inspectors making notes while customers were turned away at the door. What seems to be the problem? Elaine asked calmly. We received an anonymous tip about potential health code violations, one inspector said. Specifically, preparation of food in unsanitary conditions. That's absurd, Elaine protested. We've maintained an A rating for 10 years. Despite their protests, the inspectors conducted a thorough examination of the premises. They found nothing, of course, but the damage was done. Customers had seen the health department vehicle outside, and rumors would spread. Who would do this? Nia wondered aloud, as they finally closed up that evening. Elaine looked grim. I have my suspicions. The next day, a familiar face appeared at the bakery, Allegra Saint, her perfect smile not quite reaching her eyes. What a charming little place, she said, looking around the empty shop. The health inspection had scared away most of their regular customers. Can I help you? Nia asked coolly, immediately disliking the way Allegra was examining the bakery as if it were a quaint museum exhibit. I doubt it, Allegra replied, but I thought we should meet properly. Roman talks about you so much. Does he know you're here? Of course not, Allegra laughed lightly. This is a girl-to-girl chat. She leaned across the counter. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. The baker's assistant who's caught Roman's eye. If you're worried about your fiancé, don't be, Nia said firmly. We're just friends. Oh, I'm not worried, Allegra said, her voice hardening slightly. Roman and I have an arrangement, a mutually beneficial partnership. Do you know what that means, Nia? It means our engagement isn't just about love, it's about business, family connections, public image. Sounds romantic, Nia said dryly. It's practical, Allegra corrected, something a girl like you wouldn't understand. You see, I need Roman's money and connections, and he needs my family's influence and my public appeal for his company image. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand what you're up against, Allegra said, her smile turning cold. Roman may be infatuated with your authenticity, but when it comes down to a choice between you and everything he's worked for, what do you think he'll choose? Before Nia could respond, the bakery door opened again. Roman walked in, stopping short when he saw Allegra. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice tight. Just satisfying my curiosity, Allegra replied smoothly. Your little bakery friend is quite charming. The tension in the air was palpable as Roman looked between the two women. Allegra, I'll meet you at the car. With a final smirk at Nia, Allegra sauntered out. I'm sorry about that, Roman said once they were alone. Allegra can be honest, Nia supplied. She made your arrangement quite clear. Roman ran a hand through his hair in frustration. It's complicated. That's what you keep saying, Nia said, but it seems pretty simple to me. You're engaged to a woman you don't love for business reasons, and I'm your little adventure on the side. That's not fair, Roman protested. What I feel for you is real, Nia. More real than anything in my life. But not real enough to change anything, Nia pointed out. Go back to your fiancé, Roman. Your worlds are waiting for each other. Roman looked like he wanted to argue, but his phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression changing to one of shock. What is it? Nia asked, concerned despite herself. My mother, Roman said, his voice strained. She's in the hospital. They don't think she has much time left. Nia's anger softened. Go. Be with her. Roman hesitated. This isn't over, Nia. We're not over. After he left, Nia sat heavily on one of the bakery stools. Elaine emerged from the kitchen where she'd been listening. You need to know the truth, Elaine said quietly. All of it, before things go any further with Roman. What truth? Nia asked, suddenly tired of secrets. About your biological father, Elaine said. His name is Victor Lacroix. Nia felt the blood drain from her face. Lacroix, as in Roman's father, Elaine confirmed. Victor Lacroix had an affair with your mother nearly 30 years ago. When she told him she was pregnant, he paid her to disappear from his life. That money ran out long ago, but the pain never did. It's why your mother started drinking, why she's never been able to stay sober. Nia's world tilted on its axis. Does Roman know? I don't think so, Elaine said. Victor kept it very quiet. It would have ruined his marriage and his reputation. So Roman is my... Nia couldn't even say it. Half-brother? Elaine finished for her. Yes. The revelation hit Nia like a physical blow. The man she was falling for, the man who looked at her like she was something precious, was her brother. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. At New York Presbyterian Hospital, Roman stood awkwardly at his mother's bedside. Elizabeth Lacroix had aged considerably in the 19 years since she'd walked out on her family. Cancer had hollowed her cheeks and dulled her once vibrant eyes, but Roman could still see traces of the beautiful woman who had read him bedtime stories as a child. You came, she said weakly. Why did you ask for me now? Roman asked, still holding on to the anger of abandonment. After all these years. Because I'm dying, Elizabeth said simply, and there are things you need to know. Truths your father has kept hidden. Like what? Elizabeth took a labored breath. Your father had affairs, many of them, but one resulted in a child, a daughter. Roman felt a chill run down his spine. I have a sister? A half-sister, Elizabeth corrected. She would be about 3 years younger than you. Her mother's name was Diane. Roman froze, his mind racing. Diane, what was her last name? Holloway, I think. Or at least, that was the name she took after she married. The room seemed to spin around Roman. Diane Holloway, Nia's mother. No, he whispered. That's not possible. I'm sorry, Roman, Elizabeth said. I should have told you years ago, but Victor paid me well to keep his secrets when we divorced. It was part of the settlement. My silence. Roman staggered back, gripping the edge of a chair for support. Nia, the woman he was falling in love with, was his half-sister. The thought made him physically ill. Does she know? He managed to ask. I don't know, Elizabeth admitted. Victor paid the mother to stay quiet. He was obsessed with his public image, with the Lacroix name. Roman's phone buzzed again. A text from his father. We need to talk, now, about the Baker girl. So his father knew. About Nia. About his feelings for her. That's why he'd been so insistent that Roman end things. I have to go, Roman said abruptly. Roman, wait, his mother called after him. There's more you need to know. But Roman was already gone, his mind reeling with the implications of what he'd just learned. Victor Lacroix was waiting in his office when Roman arrived, his face like stone. You know, don't you? Roman said, not bothering with pleasantries. About Nia being your daughter. Victor's expression didn't change. Elizabeth told you, I see. How could you keep this from me, especially when you knew I was spending time with her? I was handling it, Victor said coldly. I sent Allegra to assess the situation. The health inspection was just the beginning. If necessary, I would have revealed the truth. You caused the health inspection? Roman was incredulous. You tried to destroy her godmother's business? I would do whatever necessary to protect you from scandal, Victor replied. If the press found out you were romantically involved with your half-sister... Stop! Roman cut him off. Don't say it like that. We didn't know. Well, now you do, Victor said. So this unfortunate infatuation can end. You will maintain your engagement to Allegra, and the Holloway girl will be taken care of. Taken care of? Roman repeated. What does that mean? I've already arranged to pay off her mother's rehab bills and her sister's college tuition, in exchange for their silence and their distance. Roman felt sick. You're buying them off. Again. It's business, Roman. Everything has a price. Not everything, Roman said quietly. Not everyone. He turned to leave, but Victor's voice stopped him. Where are you going? To tell Nia the truth, Roman replied. She deserves to hear it from me. If you do that, you risk everything, Victor warned. Your position in the company, your future, the Lacroix name. Roman looked back at his father, a man he'd spent his entire life trying to please. Maybe the Lacroix name isn't worth saving. When Roman arrived at Nia's apartment, she was sitting on the steps outside, as if waiting for him. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her expression devastated. You know, he said simply. Nia nodded. Elaine told me about your father and my mother. They stood in silence, the weight of the revelation hanging between them. What do we do now? Roman finally asked. There's nothing to do, Nia said, her voice hollow. We're siblings, Roman. Whatever was happening between us it can't happen. I know, Roman agreed, though the words felt like glass in his throat. But I still care about you, Nia. I want to help you and Tasha. Your mother. We don't need your money, Nia interrupted fiercely. That's how this whole mess started. Your father thinking he could buy his way out of responsibility. This isn't about my father, Roman insisted. It's about me wanting to do the right thing for my sister. The word hung awkwardly between them, a reminder of the impossible situation they found themselves in. I need time, Nia said finally. Time to process all of this. Time away from you and everything Lacroix. Roman nodded, understanding but hating it nonetheless. I'll respect that. But Nia, you're family now, whether you want to be or not, and I'm not my father. I don't abandon family. As he walked away, Roman made a decision. He would help Nia and her family, but not in the way his father had, not with secret payments and cover-ups. He would do it openly, honestly, the way it should have been done 30 years ago. What he didn't realize was that sometimes, even the best intentions can feel like betrayal to someone who's spent a lifetime learning not to trust. 2 days later, Nia received a letter. Inside was a statement showing that all of her mother's rehab bills had been paid in full. Another document showed a fully funded college account for Tasha, enough for 4 years at any school she chose. A third paper revealed that the outstanding mortgage on their apartment had been cleared. The letter with it was simple. This isn't a payment for silence. It's what should have been done long ago. Family takes care of family. Roman. Nia crumpled the letter in her fist, hot tears streaming down her face. Despite his words, despite his intentions, it felt exactly like what Victor had done to her mother, trying to solve a human problem with money. She grabbed her phone and typed a furious message to Roman. We are not your charity case. I don't want your guilt money. Stay away from me and my family. Then she blocked his number, closed her eyes and tried to ignore the voice in her heart that whispered a painful truth. The man she'd been falling in love with was forever off limits, not just because of their complicated lives or his engagement, but because of blood itself. Some fairy tales weren't meant to have happy endings. Some princes turned out to be brothers instead, and sometimes life was crueler than even Nia Holloway had been prepared for. 2 months passed like a slow, painful heartbeat. Nia threw herself into work, picking up extra shifts at Mel's diner to make up for the money she'd refused from Roman. Sweet Dreams Bakery had recovered from the health inspection scandal, but business remained slower than before. Nia hadn't seen or spoken to Roman since that day outside her apartment. She'd blocked his number, avoided watching business news and taken different routes to work, just to avoid seeing his face on billboards or magazine covers. But some nights, when the apartment was quiet and Tasha was asleep, Nia would lie awake wondering what might have been if fate hadn't played such a cruel trick on them. For Roman, the 2 months had been a time of reckoning. His mother had passed away a week after their hospital conversation, leaving him with more questions than answers. At her funeral, a small private affair that his father didn't attend, Roman had stood alone by her grave, contemplating the secrets that had shaped his life. The day after the funeral, he'd walked into his father's office and placed a document on the desk. What's this? Victor had asked, barely glancing up. My resignation from Lacroix Tech, Roman replied, and I'm selling my controlling shares in the company. That had gotten his father's attention. Don't be ridiculous. You can't sell your shares. The board would never approve it. Actually, they already have, Roman said calmly. I've been working on this for weeks. My shares will be divided among the employees as part of a new profit-sharing initiative. Victor's face had turned an alarming shade of red. You're throwing away your inheritance, your future, everything I built for you. No, Roman had corrected him. I'm choosing a different path, One that doesn't involve living in your shadow or continuing your legacy of manipulation and secrets. He'd walked out of his father's office feeling lighter than he had in years. Breaking things off with Allegra had been surprisingly painless. She'd been furious, of course, not about losing him, but about losing the connections and status his name provided. "You'll regret this," she'd hissed, already calculating her next move. "The Lacroix name opened doors for you. Then I'll build my own doors," Roman had replied. Now, 2 months later, Roman was living in a modest apartment in Brooklyn, far from the luxury of his former penthouse. He'd started a small tech foundation focused on providing technology education to underprivileged kids, and 3 nights a week he volunteered at Hope House, a shelter where his mother had once stayed during one of her attempts to leave his father. No one at the shelter knew who he was. He'd introduced himself simply as Rom. He served meals, helped with paperwork, and listened to the stories of women trying to rebuild their lives. It was during one of these volunteer shifts that Roman overheard something that changed everything. "New woman checked in last night," one of the other volunteers was saying. "Diane something. Says she's been sober 60 days, trying to make amends with her daughters." Roman froze at the name. "Diane Holloway?" The volunteer looked surprised. "Yeah, that's it. You know her?" "Not exactly," Roman said, "but I might know her daughter." After his shift, Roman found Diane sitting alone in the shelter's small garden area. She looked better than the last time he'd seen her, clearer eyes, steadier hands. "Mrs. Holloway," he said gently, "my name is Roman. Roman Lacroix." Diane looked up, her eyes widening in recognition. "You're Victor's son, the one who was seeing my Nia." Roman nodded, sitting down beside her. "I need to ask you something important, something about my father." Diane sighed deeply. "I wondered if this day would come." "Is he really Nia's father?" Roman asked directly. To his surprise, Diane let out a short, bitter laugh. "Is that what Victor told you? That he's Nia's father?" "Not him," Roman said, confused. "My mother told me before she died. She said you and my father had an affair, that Nia was the result." Diane shook her head slowly. "Your mother was wrong or lying. Victor and I did have a brief relationship, but it was after I was already pregnant with Nia." Roman felt like the ground was shifting beneath him. "What?" "Nia's biological father was a musician named Thomas Reed. He died before she was born. Car accident." Diane's eyes grew distant with memory. "I was alone and pregnant when I met Victor. He was charming, powerful. He promised to take care of us. But he didn't," Roman guessed. "When he found out I was pregnant with another man's child, he lost interest, paid me to go away, to never contact him again." Diane looked at Roman directly. "Later, I met James Holloway. He loved me enough to claim Nia as his own, to give her his name. He was a good man until the drinking took him away from us too." Roman's mind was racing, piecing together the new information. "So Nia and we're not related?" "Not by blood," Diane confirmed. "Though I'm surprised Victor let you believe that. It must have served his purpose somehow. It kept me away from Nia," Roman realized aloud. He knew how I felt about her. This was his way of making sure I'd stay away. "That sounds like Victor," Diane said bitterly. "Manipulating people's lives like chess pieces." Roman stood up, a new determination flooding through him. "Mrs. Holloway, I need to find Nia. Do you know where she is?" "She probably wouldn't want me telling you," Diane said cautiously. "She's been hurt enough." "I understand," Roman said sincerely. "But there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I need to make it right." Diane studied him for a long moment. "You really care about her, don't you?" "More than I've ever cared about anyone," Roman admitted. Diane sighed. "She's starting over. Got a little business going, selling her baked goods at the weekend market in Prospect Park. She's got a stall there every Saturday morning." "Thank you," Roman said, already turning to leave. "Roman," Diane called after him, "if you hurt her again, you'll answer to me. 60 days sober or not, I can still make trouble." Roman smiled. "I believe you." That night, Roman barely slept. The revelation that Nia wasn't his sister had lifted a crushing weight from his chest, but it didn't change everything else that stood between them. His lies, her distrust, the money he'd tried to give her family, the worlds they came from. Morning came with a steady rain that turned the city grey. Roman dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, then stopped at a small grocery store to buy a bag of lemon cookies, the kind Nia had once mentioned were her favorite. By the time he reached Prospect Park, the rain had stopped, leaving everything with a clean, fresh scent. The weekend market was setting up, vendors arranging their wares under colorful tents. It took Roman 20 minutes of searching before he spotted her. Nia stood behind a small table under a blue canopy. A hand-painted sign read, "Nia's Sweet Creations." She wore a yellow apron over a simple dress, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. Even from a distance, she looked beautiful and tired. Roman approached slowly, his heart hammering in his chest. When Nia looked up and saw him, her expression froze. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice tight. "I needed to see you," Roman said simply. "I blocked your number for a reason," Nia replied. "We have nothing to say to each other." "That's not true," Roman insisted. "I spoke with your mother yesterday." That caught Nia by surprise. "My mother? Where? At Hope House Shelter? She's been sober for 60 days, Nia. She's trying to make amends." Nia's expression softened slightly. "Is she okay?" "She seems to be doing well," Roman assured her. "But that's not why I'm here." He took a deep breath. "Nia, we're not siblings. Your biological father was a musician named Thomas Reed." Nia stared at him, disbelief written across her face. "What are you talking about? Elaine told me—" "Elaine was wrong," Roman said gently. "Or maybe my father lied to her too, but your mother confirmed it. My father did have a relationship with her, but after she was already pregnant with you. We don't share the same blood, Nia." Nia gripped the edge of her table, processing this new information. "Why should I believe you?" "Ask your mother," Roman suggested. "She's at Hope House. She's the one who told me where to find you." "Even if it's true," Nia said slowly, "it doesn't change everything else. The way you tried to buy me off, just like your father did to my mother." "I was wrong," Roman admitted. "I thought I was helping, but I was just repeating my father's mistakes. I'm sorry, Nia. I should have asked what you needed instead of assuming I knew what was best." Nia studied him, noting the changes, the simpler clothes, the absence of his usual polished appearance. "You look different." "I am different," Roman said. "I left La Croix Tech, sold my shares to the employees, broke off my engagement with Allegra. I'm starting over." "Why?" Nia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because the life I had wasn't real," Roman replied honestly. "The money, the power, the connections, none of it made me happy. The only time I felt truly alive was when I was with you, Nia. When you laughed, when you challenged me, when you saw through all my defenses to who I really was." A customer approached the stall, and Nia turned away to help them. Roman waited patiently, watching as she smiled and chatted, her passion for her baking evident in the way she described each item. When they were alone again, Nia asked, "So what now? You think we can just pick up where we left off?" "No," Roman said. "Too much has happened. We need to start fresh, if you want to." Nia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I don't know what I want anymore. When I thought you were my brother, it broke something in me. And now you're saying it was all a lie." "A lie my father told to keep us apart," Roman confirmed, "because he knew how I felt about you, and it didn't fit into his plans." "And how do you feel about me, Roman?" Nia challenged. Roman reached into his pocket and pulled out the bag of lemon cookies. He placed them on the table between them. "I never wanted to save you, Nia," he said softly. "I just wanted to be good enough to stand beside you." The simplicity and honesty of his words cut through Nia's defenses. She looked at the cookies. Such a small thing, but it showed he'd remembered something personal about her, something that wasn't about money or status. "I need time," she said finally, "to talk to my mother, to process all of this." "I understand," Roman said. "I'll wait, however long it takes." He turned to leave, but Nia's voice stopped him. "Roman," he looked back. "I close up at 3, she said. "Maybe we could talk then." "Really talk?" The smile that broke across Roman's face was genuine, hopeful. "I'd like that." As he walked away, Nia found herself smiling too, a small, tentative smile, but real nonetheless. 3 weeks later, Nia stood in the kitchen of Hope House, teaching a baking class to the women staying there. Her mother sat in the front row, taking careful notes. "The secret to perfect lemon cookies," Nia was saying, "is to not overwork the dough." The shelter door opened, and Roman walked in carrying bags of groceries. He'd been volunteering regularly, and the women had come to look forward to his visits. None of them knew he was the one funding the shelter's recent renovations, or that he'd established a job training program that would launch the following month. Nia caught his eye and smiled, a warm, private smile that made his heart skip. They were taking things slowly, rebuilding trust one day at a time. Roman had insisted on paying fair market value for the pastries he ordered for his foundation events, and Nia had finally agreed to let him help Tasha with college applications, not with money, but with his connections to Columbia alumni. Most importantly, they were getting to know each other honestly. No pretenses, no secrets. After the class, as they walked through Prospect Park together, Roman took Nia's hand. "I have something to ask you," he said, stopping under a blooming cherry tree. "If it's a business proposition, the answer is no," Nia teased. "I'm keeping my independence." Roman laughed. "Nothing like that. I was wondering if you'd be my date to the opening of the tech center next month, as my girlfriend, officially." Nia pretended to consider it. "Will there be photographers, society pages, gossip columns speculating about the billionaire and the baker?" "Former billionaire," Roman corrected. "Current non-profit founder with modest savings. And probably yes to all of the above." "Then I'll need a new dress," Nia decided, "and you'll have to help Tasha with her calculus homework while I shop for one." "Deal," Roman agreed immediately. Nia's expression turned serious. "Are you sure about this, about us? It won't be easy. We come from different worlds." "Not anymore," Roman said. "Now we're building our own world, together." He leaned down and kissed her softly. A promise. A beginning. Later that evening, as they sat on the small balcony of Nia's apartment sharing a plate of her latest baking experiment, Roman thought about how far they'd both come, from the glittering rosewood gala, where he'd first heard her laugh, to this simple moment of shared joy. "What are you thinking about?" Nia asked, noticing his thoughtful expression. "About how sometimes the sweetest things in life are the ones you never see coming," Roman replied. Nia smiled and leaned her head against his shoulder. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and for the first time in both their lives, the future looked as bright as the promise they'd found in each other's arms. In the bedroom down the hall, Tasha was on the phone with her mother, who was still at Hope House completing her 90-day sobriety program. "Mum, you'll never believe it," Tasha was saying excitedly. "I got an interview at Columbia, and guess what else? Nia's bakery got featured in Brooklyn Magazine. Things are finally looking up for the Holloway women." In her small but comfortable room at the shelter, Diane Holloway closed her eyes, grateful tears sliding down her cheeks. After a lifetime of wrong turns and bad decisions, she was finally on the right path, and so were her daughters. Outside Nia's apartment, the stars continued to shine, bearing witness to a love that had overcome lies, crossed boundaries of class and circumstance, and emerged stronger for all it had endured. Sometimes fairy tales do come true, even for girls who stopped believing in them long ago. Sometimes princes walk away from their kingdoms to build something more meaningful. And sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with a laugh across a crowded room, pure and unpretentious, like summer rain. For Roman Lacroix and Nia Holloway, it wasn't the end of their story, but rather the beginning of a new chapter, one they would write together, one day at a time, with honesty, forgiveness, and the kind of love that sees beyond appearances to the heart of what truly matters. And that, after all, is the sweetest thing of all.